a bit more than you could when this game initially launched. I mean, my perception of this game's storyline would be far more skewed had I not been factoring in Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain or Peace Walker, which really patched a lot of things up. I know that a lot of people say that people don't like Metal Gear Solid 4 in the fan base, and I'll just give you a quick example. This was a post made all the way back in 2010 on Giant Bomb.
I need to make this right.
We will. I've ever seen
Don't worry.
Lo mejor. Years ago, and then I reread it for this entire video, and he actually talks a lot of stuff, but some of the stuff that I can't really agree with. Like, if you look into here, not actually a stealth game. Computer Productions may like to think it's fooled you into thinking MGS4 is a stealth game, but don't allow it the pleasure of doing it. The truth is, Guns of the Patriots is almost a bona fide action game. Sure, you can progress without setting off any alerts, but it's much easier to simply blast your way through the over-the-shoulder view. Like, there's a lot of discourse, and I mean, when you read stuff like this, it's like, yeah, I guess it's simpler and it's easier, but I mean, it's not like that's your only option. It's giving players a choice. And it's talking about no native cover system, and that's actually really wrong. The game does have a cover system. Sure, it might not be as implemented as, say, GTA 4 or Gears of War at the time, but it's there. Enemies are bullet sponges, not if you shoot them in the fucking head. I mean, this is a long post, and for a lot of the situations, I do agree with it, you know what I mean? He does talk about a lot of actual points. But I mean, despite all of that said, the community was very defensive, and sure, I actually do agree. I mean, there's people who respectfully disagree. Okay, you're brave, I'll give you that. I love Metal Gear Solid 4. Yeah, me too. But I mean, there was a lot. This game is like 50-50 on both sides. It's fun, but I mean, it does have a lot of problems. And when you have fans who are writing like,
a mí me encantó.
I have to appreciate that the game still sucked this dude enough to write all of this. That's crazy. Anyways, let's get back to convoluted story.
Y pena que es PlayStation 3. Difícilmente vamos a ver un remake.
See, Zero has actually kept Big Boss alive.
Un remaster, que digo.
Because of this betrayal that Big Boss did to Zero, in his eyes, in Zero's eyes, Zero decided, I can't trust human beings with the future of the world. So what the fuck did he do? Well, he finances the Patriots' artificial intelligence system. So let's just detail what this AI does. This AI consists of 4 artificial intelligences. GW is what we knew about in Metal Gear Solid 2, which we use the worm cluster on. GW, JD, and all these individuals are sort of like a digital Mount Rushmore type deal, as the game describes. And what they effectively do is control all aspects of human civilization, whether that be politics, military, social media, culture. Every aspect of our lives is controlled by a fucking computer. The ones and zeros that it calculates are what our society ends up becoming the next day. So that's sort of the general way we're going. When you compare Metal Gear Solid 4's view of this Illuminati and shadowy organization that controls the world, it's actually quite identical to a lot of other games that exist out there. For instance, if you play Deus Ex a lot, you'll notice that as you play those games, it's really just a group of people doing shadowy things behind the scenes. It's very driven by some emotions, very driven by actual human beings. Metal Gear Solid 4 flips that script, and instead of actually having human beings, every single aspect of our society is actually watered down to a base function. Even the war economy is so present in this game. This mutation of AI design is simply that. It's just a function gone wrong. At the very end of the day, the actual Patriots are no different than anything else. It's just literally a computer running ones and zeros to see the best outcome that it can decide for human beings. And that, to me, is actually a little bit more interesting than just, say, your average fair Illuminati storyline. I really do like this dystopian world of Metal Gear Solid 4 because it's actually a world that I can believe exists at some point down the road. Going back to the story then, my Big Boss is important, and you know that he is a brain-dead individual. And security parameters that are somewhat created to how it's a Patriot AI. So that is the right force as we discussed in Crash 3. Now, because of this, Big Boss is not kept alive, he's not kept dead, he's just kept as a violent, and used to sort of the system moving forward. Now, during all of this, when they split Big Boss and Zero, Big Boss. So he took Big Boss's genetic, cloned them, and created I think there's somewhere around 20 clones that most people died. So you have Solid X, which is the perfect clone, and then you have Liquid and Solid State. who are imperfect clones. You know, they have the DNA from Big Boss and also one from a unidentified Japanese woman. But they came to term and were raised in the womb of Venus, like Big Mama. So technically, they were born like regular children. They were just the product of Big Boss. And here, where Snake is actually told that Big Boss didn't give a shit about his kids. He's like, fuck them, man, I don't care. I didn't bring these kids into the world, fuck out of here. And so, you know, he didn't care. He didn't give a shit.
Oh my god, dude, same?
Now that this all has been brought forward, this should help you understand just how the world works and a lot of the relationships that you've seen deteriorate from Metal Gear Solid 3. Now, the last thing you also have to know is the events of Metal Gear Solid 1 have sort of been recontextualized. You've been given more information on the manipulation that happened behind the scenes. The reason the DARPA chief died in MGS1 wasn't some fluke by Ocelot. Ocelot's a master torturer. He only had one goal. He was devoted to Big Boss. Or he wasn't working for anybody. And he's an expert torturer. I mean, you've seen this throughout the franchise, so he didn't fuck up. He deliberately killed Sigint, who ended up becoming the DARPA chief.
Now, this is the perfect time to talk about bad writing and retconning when it comes to Metal Gear Solid. Now, at this point, we had no idea that Ocelot, Liquid Snake back in the day of Metal Gear Solid 1 and Psycho Mantis actually knew each other. But in the event of Metal Gear Solid 5, Phantom Pain, we actually see that Ocelot and Liquid, who was Eli at the time, a young boy, in Diamond Dogs, actually square off and work together and against each other in this game. Now, at the events of MGS5, all spoilers included, Psycho Mantis is also present as a young boy in this game. Him and Liquid team up to steal Sahelanthropus. Now, of course, none of this was focused on canonically. I think they talked about this more during the extra, like, deleted scene segment, but they escaped with a Metal Gear. And Ocelot was clearly devoted to Venom Snake at the time. So the reality of it is that these guys should actually have a disdain and lack of trust against each other. I mean, Ocelot's a master torturer. If he fucks up and kills one of the people, he may have just done it deliberately. The fact that Liquid doesn't pop him in the head at this point shows me that clearly there's a lack of foresight going forward. Even with MGS5, when you're tying the story together, ignoring this simple fact, I don't know, maybe I'm looking too into it. You know, it probably is just me looking too damn into it, but goddamn, there are a lot of these inconsistencies that one can point out as the story progresses. But anyways, let's get back. The Dr. Clark, who was paramedic, who did fucked up experiments to make Cyborg Ninja, yeah, she ended up getting killed. Eva and Ocelot perpetrated that. In the process, though, Ocelot was lost, and he ended up becoming like Liquid Ocelot. I guess his brain was taken over, some stupid shit. I mean, let me just tell you, after all this, take a breath, walk away for 10 seconds, and come back and realize, wow, the writing is just all the way there. But if you stick long enough, okay, despite all the plot holes, you'll eventually realize that, I guess there's some magic to it. Anyways, after all this, you finally end up realizing that you gotta see what Big Boss is. I mean, he's technically alive. So Eva takes you out to the back, where you go up to this black man, and guess who's in the back van? It's Big Boss, whose body has been burned after the events of Metal Gear 2. You know, when Big Boss is lit with an aerosol can and lighters? That's literally how the boss battle is. But Big Boss is technically alive, and his conscience is locked behind. You know the answer. You fucking know the answer. Look into your fucking heart and tell me what the answer is. Yeah, nanomachines are used to suppress this dude's mental state and keep his soul locked in so that Zero can utilize him as an infinite password, God knows for how long, until his natural lifespan finally caves in. I mean, look, I get it, it's messed up, it is what it is, but dude, really locking the soul behind fucking nanomachines? They are used so fucking liberally, man, it's not even funny! But anyways, it turns out that Ravensword, the PMC operating in this area, has gotten wind of the location of the Resistance. So now, you have to end up escaping. And here's where you get a little bit of monologue, you know, sort of like a little future tale that sort of parallels into ours. Stop. Before we actually get to that, can we just appreciate that this was written into the fucking game? The trench coat Scout Gecko, man, I swear. There's only one scene that makes me fucking laugh chunks, and that comes in Act 4. Just get ready, boys. Someone was paid to write this shit into the script. Where Eva talks about these free-to-play video games being distributed. All these resistance members were actually war orphans, people that came to them, people that have lost their families and loved ones in the middle of war.
All of those children were orphans. They work in army. And when they grow up, they want to become PMC. They seek revenge for their country. They kill their parents and do the things they support their younger siblings. Countless child soldiers like these in the nowadays, anyone with a gun will combat. The FBI was distributed for free by these enemies. Of course, it's all just virtual training. It's so easy for them to get absorbed by these machines. And before they know it, they're in the PMCs holding video cameras. These kids end up fighting in proxy wars that have nothing to do with their human lives. They think it's cool to fight like this. They think it's combat. They don't need a reason to.
That's all I had.
After all, for them, it's a new game. Heroes of defeating liquid won't change that.
So, I'll be real, it seems a bit heavy-handed than usual, but this is the one moment in the game where I think it comes as close to the writing of Metal Gear Solid 2. MGS2 is one of those postmodernist games that pretty much predicted sort of this Illuminati future, and a lot of things that we have nowadays were present, or at least the theory of it was included in Metal Gear Solid 2. Now, MGS4's take on the war economy and military-industrial complex actually does come through pretty well here. I'm not going to say that evil was on the nose exactly, but it's interesting to see how many free-to-play shooters do come out. And I mean, not too long ago, we had the U.S. Army esports team making waves in mainstream news. And I don't deny for a second that that was a nice, soft way to get a lot of kids who are just playing games like Call of Duty Warzone slowly into the military ecosystem. I mean, it's a weird way that this game touches upon very key controversial topics. And I'm not going to say that every single hit is perfect, but moments like this, you know, you definitely have to appreciate in a game like Metal Gear Solid 4. Now, you do get to the best chase sequence in the game. It's kind of a callback to MGS3's ending chase, but here, the chase sequence, man, let me tell you, if you thought the choreography was great so far, man, because this game is a video game, Kojima has made what I believe one of the best one-take chase sequences out there. Now, this whole segment lasts maybe like 10, 15 minutes. It's basically a drive through Eastern Europe and a giant escape from Raven. You're on the back of this bike with Eva, and throughout this entire moment, you can whip out any submachine gun you want, go over the shoulder, and open up fire. But I do advise that you go to the settings menu, enable autoing, because it does make your life a lot fucking easier. This game runs at 20 frames per second, you know, on average. Okay, and you're on the stick, so please do me a favor, put on autoing, because then you can lay waste to everyone and enjoy the amazing cinematography. Now, halfway through this fight, you eventually stop getting chased by Raven Sword, and then you start getting chased by Raging Raven, the boss of the area. Now, this is quite possibly one of my best battles, but it's yet to come. This chase sequence isn't too necessarily different. All that's added are UAVs that fly towards you that you can shoot down within a shot. There's a couple Humvees that chase you in the area, but it's not that different of a chase. I mean, it's just more cool chase choreography. That is what it is. But you do realize that vans are slowly getting iced out, and the decoy vans that are used to sort of, you know, guide our Raven Sword away, they're going down one by one. So I mean, this chase is really cutting down to the fucking wire. But anyways, you end up crashing into this church, and it seems like the last van might be gone, and Raging Raven is literally flying above you, waiting to ice you out. So, Eva, who actually suffered an abdomen stab reminiscent of the first time in Metal Gear Solid 3, you know, she's just up to the wall, sort of trying to heal the best she can. And I mean, look, I'm just going to say it as a side note, that looks pretty bad. Like, I'm not a doctor, but at her age, and that impact, it's very unrealistic that she made it through. Oh, don't get incestuous on me, Metal Gear, stop it. And you get the best boss battle in the fucking game, which is, well, not the best boss battle, but the best Beauty and the Beast boss battle. Wait, stop. We gotta have a senior moment first. He's gotta inject, oh God, Snake, you can make it.
You can make it! Oh, dude, I swear it's gotta be like super Viagra at some point. You gotta have a boner lasting longer than 10 hours. Now, this boss battle, to me, let me tell you, it takes place on this church, and this is a big vertical zone to fight in. Okay, it might not be huge horizontally, but you definitely have a lot of keywords to work with. Now, Raging Raven's gimmick is she's the explosives expert of B&B, so her main weapon is not going to be some fucking rapid assault rifle or LMG. No, she whips out a goddamn grenade launcher and sends you to Jesus with it. Now, her grenade launchers, I believe, come in your explosive variant, your incendiary variant, but it's not just a grenade launcher, no. She has UAVs that are literal fucking explosives as well, too. So she's very violent and very deadly if you choose to take her head on. So the whole way to win this scenario is to play this in a much more stealth fashion. So that's using your octo camo and staying hidden. So kill a couple of her UAVs and kind of digitally blind her. Force her into the area and start opening fire. You can use assault rifles, shotguns, rocket launchers preferably because you are fighting the beast form. Actually, no, screw assault rifles. Do you see the lack of damage I'm doing? No, just bring the fucking rockets, dude. But if you can bait out a really heavy attack by her, then get ready because she overheats and you can get a really awesome shot in on her if you manage to time it right. She'll run away. She'll try to like regain her stamina or heat, cool down her systems. But if you manage to get her, you can get a pretty nice shot in between the areas. But it is what it is. The battle is fine. It's probably better than the lack of Octopus we went up against, just because there is a bit more variety to how you fight her, and because of her aggressive nature, playing on a harder difficulty, it does actually make this battle a bit more tense than I expected. But the Raging Raven, when she goes down, she becomes her beauty form, and you take her down the same way you do any other beauty. This doesn't change. Whip out a non-lethal item or a lethal item and send her to Jesus. Now, at the end of it all, you do get the backstory from Drebin.
How old was she? I'd say about 20. But she had years of soldiers' rage hidden away in that youthful body of hers. Soldiers.
Looks like some sort of quarry.
Yeah, the soldiers of our king.
Hey girl, stay back. It's too dangerous.
Peace in a long, long time. She was captured by one side or another and kept caged up like an animal, along with God knows how many other kids. Anonymous violence. Exactly. It's unknown whether her captors were with the government or the rebels. In any case, they got their kicks by abusing these helpless little kids day after day after day. That constant barrage, that battlefield rage slowly built up inside their bodies, their minds. The kids tried to keep each other's spirits up, always clinging to the hope that someone would come to their rescue, barely surviving off of scraps of food. But those soldiers didn't stop. They called the kids parasites and shit-eating ravens, beat them even harder. Then one morning, the soldiers just up and left, leaving the surviving kids to be eaten alive by the birds. Almost like one of those sky bearings. One by one, their bodies were picked apart by ravens' beaks, until finally the flock came for her. But by some miracle, their beaks cut her bonds instead. And like that, she was liberated. In that instant, she was filled with an uncontrollable rage, and it smothered her soul. She ripped the ravens pecking at her to pieces, and then...
Ah.
And when she finally caught up with them, she waited until nightfall like a hunter awaiting its prey. They say that when a raven cries, a man dies. And that's exactly what happened that night. Screeching and cawing, she killed every last living being in the camp. Both the soldiers and the civilians they'd enslaved. In her eyes, there was no longer a difference. The cruelty her friends had suffered, the pain and humiliation she'd endured. Hers was the distillation of the rage that decades of war had imparted on those soldiers. It was her
Now, I'm going to be
strength.
real. I really appreciate Kojima going into this unfiltered, uncensored view of the world and its various war crimes. I'm sure if I went to some remote part of the world where war is an unfortunate reality, I would find some really fucked up shit like this happening to children by soldiers who just have way too much power. I mean, shit like Abu Ghraib is a reality, and I'm glad that Metal Gear Solid 4 touches upon it. And of course, to give Kojima credit, he does touch upon this in later games like Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain. And I do like that aspect of this game and the Metal Gear series. It really adds to the anti-war message. What I hate about this backstory shit the most is that it really doesn't tie into the characters until you've actually beaten them. The beat would have been so much better had Kojima decided to, I don't know, flesh those characters up into cutscenes and gameplay instead of just giving us this Wikipedia re-narration of their backstory. I mean, that's one of the biggest downsides to this Metal Gear Solid game's bosses than prior games in the franchise. I'm not even going to get into the games that came out after Metal Gear Solid 4 because they really didn't have any goddamn boss battles to begin with. But that's a whole separate video in of itself. So now it's actually technically beaten 3. Now it's all just cutscenes, and this is where you get more bombshell drops and probably one of the worst bits of writing. I don't really know how to tell you this, but this is one of the fucking best moments of this game. And one of the most stupidest fucking moments of this game too. So let's just go down the list. Okay? Now, Liquid of the Volta River ends up kicking your ass in. All right, you know, because he's superior at CQC. Don't forget that. Liquid's the better one. But Liquid actually tells you that he doesn't need Big Boss's body.
I'd like to feel my legs
Yeah,
again
the
if you
whole
don't
reason
mind.
you came to Eastern Europe, you know, to make sure Big Boss's body wasn't hijacked by Liquid. Yeah, Liquid didn't need him there.
Even if you do get a hold of the system, you'll only have one part of the
Mighty
Patriots'
thankful to
AI.
you, Savior.
Just
The
a
military
favor.
part.
It's fine.
Aaron mentioned you're not one for fancy titles.
You're Vanguard.
We're here to escort Wadisi's delegate behind to the embassy.
If we can get rid of these bristlebacks.
Captain said to keep an eye on Chainscrape, then these other bloodshed.
Gave the first one a good beating.
It's only a matter of time before I have.
Told you it wasn't a good idea to eat that much before heading out.
I should probably go. You know where I can find it?
Captain went chasing after more bristlebacks further west.
Just follow the sound of cursing and you'll find them. Now, if you see any more of these
So to
bristles,
add context to this
Make sure to
absolute
roll out of
shit
her way.
plot
Might
twist,
want to take some
let
of
me
these
tell you
as well.
something. In Metal
They're
Gear
handy
Solid
at
2, there's the AI that basically runs everything. We talked about it
Stay
earlier,
safe,
GW. Well, in the event of Metal Gear Solid 2, we actually end up infecting GW with a cluster worm that ends up destroying it, or so we thought at the time. It only ended up breaking GW into, like, pieces. So they went into the trash bin, found the pieces, fucking scotch taped them back together, and whoa, GW's there. Now the all big bad fucking AI system, the Patriots, they planted GW back into the Patriots. So get this. The fucking world controlling AI
I think I might have
couldn't
gone to the
fucking do a
Vista
file search within
Try
itself
again.
because apparently it has great security systems on the exterior. But inside, it's a fucking dumbass. So guess what? The fucking AI that's been controlling the world, that knows GW was dead. It died in a fucking computer worm. It definitely logged it, okay? Like, fucking, it checked its system logs and it was like, yeah, GW is
in there to
fucked.
get it.
Gang fucked, okay? Brazzers.com/GW. Yeah, that AI couldn't file search inside and realize, oh shit, it's back? Wait, it's slightly modified because it was shredded? Oh, okay, cool. Stay there. So guess what? He tells you that
Looks like
GW
this story
is just a
needs
scoop
kind of
in the
key
system.
module.
Alright?
Maybe
And
there's
all
more to
Liquid
it.
has to do is basically destroy, JD, the hypervisor AI that controls the overall security that's floating in space. He has to blow that up, get rid of it, and guess what? GW somehow gets super user access into the system. Now, I'll tell you from a fucking computer science perspective, that shit's batshit stupid, okay? I may not know, you know, AIs and all that shit. I may not know how, like, the Metal Gear AIs work to the fundamental level, but let me tell you something right now. I have no idea how this game was trying to explain this shredded AI suddenly gaining fucking full privilege access to the system. I have no idea. You would expect if the hypervisor fails, the system itself is going to fucking think, well, we should fail as a goddamn whole. I have no idea. Never explained, never brought into it. Somehow, by destroying the hypervisor, GW is first in line to become the hypervisor. No idea how. No idea how it's done.
poorly explained. And the fact that he had this in the first place, the fact that he had this fucking hand proved he didn't even need to be in Eastern Europe. What the fuck was the point? Okay, all that happened for Liquid. Okay, let's just go down. Let's just get through the whole fucking cutscene. Okay, after all this explanation, Liquid is getting away. He seems like he wins. The U.S. government intervenes in what is arguably one of the best cutscenes of Last Generation. Hell, it still stands up today. So let's give it a quick little watch. Yeah, remember at the beginning of this act, we were supposed to be told suppression force. Yo, it's a fucking oppression force, dude. Now, graphically, dude, this thing holds up hard. I mean, I'm playing this in 2020. This is a 2008 game. We cannot deny that Metal Gear Solid 4 did not have ambition and fucking style. And it did hit that, let's be real. But here the arrest is led by Meryl in charge, and it seems like all is over for Ocelot until he starts doing some really questionable shit, man. Now, to understand, the United States military brings more guys than it did to whack fucking Bin Laden, so clearly this is some serious goddamn shit. And that being said, Liquid does one of the stupidest fucking things, but also one of the best things the series has ever done. He starts Thanos snapping like everything out from the US military, taking away their actual effective military control of their vehicles, weapons, and everything, even down to their core nanomachines. He basically snaps fingers and all hell breaks loose. And it leads to one of the dumbest scenes in the entire game. And we're just going to give it a quick, maybe 30-second watch. He's making rat-a-tat noises. I'm fucking done, dude. Oh, Liquid just opened fire and just wasted the United States military right there. I mean, everyone has gone to shit. There is no semblance. I mean, at this point, Liquid pretty much has military control over the world, all right? Not just the U.S. military. No. The world. His PMCs are the only ones who are doing shit anymore, and that is what it is. All right, so, I mean, it's a big loss for every character involved, right? I mean, Eva ends up losing her life. I mean, literally, Snake and Eva just meet up. Snake finds out that he actually had a mom for like an hour, and then she's dead. And then guess what? Johnny comes in and actually has to come and save fucking Meryl. All right, and I guess you get kind of like this Johnny unmasking himself, and he's like, "Don't worry, baby, I'll be there all the time." Budding love, I would say, budding romance, and we're gonna get to more of that by Act 5. So. Act 5 is going to be a fucking bombshell, okay? Let me tell you. But yeah, a lot of stuff happens. Johnny, once again, unaffected by all this nonsense. Liquid wins. He fucked off. Now, I'm just going to tell you this. Why the fuck would Liquid even show up in Eastern Europe if he had that out of the first place? It seems like all he did was let Snake in on it and give Snake some clue on how to move forward. Had he fucked off and gotten rid of JD and Solace,
Stay back, you'll get killed. Get out of there.
he would have had control of the system. No Snake, no one could have done anything. I mean, listen, dumbass, I get that Snake is 80 years old, he's already on fucking death's door, but give him enough chances, he'll fucking stop you. That's what he does. Dude, it's like the dumbest point
story. Why? Like, this is why when I first played this act and I heard about the scene, I'm like, why would he be here? The first question anybody asked when they played was like, why would he show up here? What is he getting out of it? And you know what? He gets nothing, because Mark II ends up sneaking onto Liquid's escape boat and following him through and getting his plans anyways, as we'll find out next chapter. So yeah, Liquid, net loss. I mean, yeah, sure, you showed off the fact that you hijacked the system, but you still gave the only man who could stop you, the only dude out of sheer fucking will stop you. You gave him a clue. If he didn't help out Snake, if he didn't literally give him this is the equivalent of giving the fucking dude the test answers. If you didn't give him the test answers, Snake would have failed, and you would have owned the world. Fucking stupid. And that's the end of Act 3. I mean, it is an infuriating, okay? But you know what? The next act is true fantasy. So if I'm a little tilted now, the next act is going to calm down on the fanboy nerd. So get ready. Act 4, ladies and gentlemen. We are at rock bottom. Now, I'm going to cover this briefly very quickly because it is incredibly sad. And it is incredibly short. I mean, not Act 2 short, but it is short, let me tell you. Now, at this point in the storyline, Liquid's hijacked the system. Everyone's basically locked out. And we are at, I mean, if rock bottom, you know, was a place, well, we're burrowing deeper than that, boys. We're going even deeper.
U.S. military systems are all in Liquid's
Oh, man, it's all fucking code red. Now, you know, here Campbell pretty much fills Snake in on the situation that overseas, back at home, the U.S. is locked out, overall countries are locked out, and pretty much any PNC that doesn't work with Liquid, oh, they're all locked out. Maybe it first shows up. Hi, Maylin, she's finally back in. I mean, she was mentioned, but I'm glad that she shows up. I think her original voice actor showed up, but the accent's gone. Like, I guess after 10 years, you know, you sort of drop the accent, but I mean,
Those asses
that was a pretty heavy accent for Metal Gear Solid 1. I mean, I'm a little good for you.
Nice to meet you, Snake. It's an honor to speak to a living legend like yourself.
The nuclear disposal facility on Shadow Moses hasn't been touched since the incident.
So fun little Metal Gear trivia, they actually retconned her accent in Metal Gear Solid the Twin Snakes remake for GameCube of the original Metal Gear Solid. Because, guess what? Mei Ling was actually born and raised in America, but somehow they gave her like this thick Chinese accent in the original, and then they fixed it up for MGS4. So it also serves the effect of A, making the storyline just more cohesive, and also to make sure this game is fucking uncancelable in today's climate. Anyways, though, Mei Ling's back, and she's now the captain of a training vessel in the U.S. Navy, the Missouri, which is the only active vessel because it was made before the system was in effect. Now, over here in this part, Otacon has the final video feed from Mark II, which had jumped on the Liquid ship from the final act, their getaway boat. And from there, they found out that Liquid is actually planning to steal the railgun from Metal Gear X on Shadow Moses Island from Metal Gear Solid 1 to fire a nuke at JD when it's in orbit, okay, in order to actually gain control of the system like we talked about in Act 3's ending. Now, maybe you weren't even supposed to know that. I'm just sort of like looking ahead. Maybe it depends on how this is presented. But Liquid has a plan, and his plan is, can I just be honest? This wouldn't have happened if he didn't give Snake the clues. They wouldn't go to Shadow Moses Island. Anyways, though, all the rage aside, the reason why he's doing this is Metal Gear Rex was actually implemented before the SOP system was ever into effect, right? It was way back during the days of Metal Gear Solid 1. Not only that, but Metal Gear Rex was designed so that when it fired nukes, it would go against the commonly placed laws of the time. It was literally designed to circumvent the laws of firing a nuke traditionally. Since it used a railgun, the railgun actually prevented, you know, any laws from being broken regarding the launching of that nuke, right? So that's the only reason he's getting it. Plus, it's the only way to launch a nuclear device to destroy JD that's not shut down from the system. Because while he has control of the SOP system, the only thing that Liquid really can control are small arms, you know, pistols, assault rifles, conventional weapons. As far as nuclear weapons go of the age, they are still locked down even tighter, which is a good thing. I mean, I'm glad that they thought ahead enough so that no idiot could just get access to nuclear firearms. But, you know, good job. This is where you also get another bit of Raiden's shitty writing that I'm going to lose my mind over. Listen.
You know, I said earlier I like Raiden as a character because, in my opinion, he has a pretty solid backstory. I swear to God, Kojima or somebody at Konami's writing staff fucking hated this dude. Because, my lord, I have never seen a more groveling bitch performance than fucking Raiden.
You and I are both just pawns in this proxy war. But once this is over, we will have our freedom. Run. I'll release you. It's the only way I'll ever be free.
Raiden, 5 years ago. That's not what I meant.
I've got nothing to lose.
Don't be an idiot. You know you've got someone to protect.
It was never going to work out for me. It even rained the day I was born.
You got it all wrong. You were the lightning in that rain. You can still shine through the darkness.
Pato.
Raiden's like, I was born when it rained. I mean, bro, you only have a certain amount of weather patterns that could happen during your birth. Rain is not an indicative of you having a shitty reality growing up.
Incoming.
And then Snake has to come in, but you were the lightning in that rain. Like, bro, when you're getting fucking response lines like that, it's pretty endgamed on how they wrote you in. I mean, listen, I've convinced somebody dislikes this guy, and then you've got a fucking Special Forces ninja who's groveling to Snake. I mean, I get Snake is a mythic fucking figure. He's the man that makes the impossible
What the
possible.
fuck?
But Ryan, have some goddamn self-respect, brother. Stop sucking his cock. Come on, you and him were partners during fucking MGS2. At least give yourself that much self-respect. Anyways, though, with all that said, Raiden has much more shitty writing tropes that are fucking headed down the path. So, you know, losing my cool now serves no purpose to this video yet. Now, after this whole briefing tape, you actually get Snake's Nightmare. And this is a pretty cool moment of the game where it actually emulates the original PlayStation 1 game. If you ever remember playing Metal Gear Solid, you'll know that everyone who's played it pretty much knows the Heliport entrance, Heliport A, which is after you go up the service elevator, the intro stage, you actually get to get into your first stealth segment where you walk around, you can get caught in spotlights, you can find your pistol, you can pick up your chaff grenades, you can sneak in a multiple amount of ways. And for the most part, this section gives you that clearance. You go through this one section and then the Snake wakes up from his nightmare. And this is a good way to show you that Snake is still haunted by the effects of Shadow Moses. Personally, if I was to make this game, I would have probably picked the walkway between the towers where you have the Sniper Wolf fight. I think this game needed a Snake's Ladder moment. If you don't know what that is, in Metal Gear Solid 3 there's a point where you climb a ladder for like a couple minutes where it plays an entire song out. It's the longest ladder climb in video game history as far as I know. And it's a good way for you to sort of breathe, take it in, and really think about things as you're playing Metal Gear Solid 3. MGS4 would have been great if it had that same walkway segment, but like extended like the ladder scene, so you just keep walking down and going through a lot of these auditory flashbacks, which you should kind of get used to if you were playing this and exploring, especially during Act 2. It would have been great to see that Snake was still haunted, specifically by that moment. If you played Metal Gear Solid 1, that walkway between the communication towers where he has the Sniper Wolf battle is actually where a very pivotal scene actually happens, where you're going to look into Snake's character and his mentality as a soldier, even though that he's a cold-blooded fucking killer.
The sniper's using me for bait to lure you out.
Damn.
Shoot me, Snake. My gun. I can't reach it by myself.
Don't move.
I promised. I wouldn't slow you down.
Snake, it's a trap. The sniper's trick to lure you out. The sniper's waiting for you to go and help Meryl, so he can pick you off. Don't do it.
Must be Sniper Wolf, Foxhound's best shooter.
Snipers usually work in pairs, but this one's alone, huh?
I know her. She can wait for hours, days, or weeks. It doesn't matter to her. She's just watching and waiting for you to expose yourself.
Maybe so, but Meryl can't hold out that long.
Snake, can you see Wolf from where you are?
There's nowhere to hide between here and the tower. She must be on the second floor of the tower.
If Wolf is in the communications tower, she can see you perfectly. It's the classic sniper's position. At that distance, you won't be able to hit her with a standard weapon either. You'll need a sniper rifle.
Colonel, take it easy. I'm gonna save Meryl no matter what it takes.
Okay. Thanks.
What's wrong, Naomi?
Nothing. I'm just surprised you're willing to sacrifice yourself. Dean's a soldier, not a savior.
You trying to say that I'm only interested in saving my own skin?
I wouldn't go that far, but
I don't know what the hell my genes look like, and I don't care. I operate on instinct.
like an animal.
I'm going to save Meryl. I don't need an excuse.
Okay.
And I'm not doing it for someone else either. I'm going to save Meryl for myself. Colonel, don't worry.
Snake. Thanks.
I can't stress to you how amazing this scene is for an era where voice acting was especially in its infancy. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 1, this cutscene, I never skip every single replay I do. Just because it's so well crafted. Had they actually just used this location instead of the actual skates, the helipad A, it would have probably impacted a little bit harder. I remember this
remake no se escucha tan
Metal
bonito.
Gear Solid 1 because it really gave the protagonist I was playing with some fucking humanity, and that is something that I very rarely saw in video games back then, and sometimes even when I play a lot of video games today. Truly a well-written scene and well-written characters. Now, when you first actually land on Shadow Moses Island from the Nightmare, it's all covered in blizzards, alright, as you expected, and as you finally approach, do your first stealth segment with geckos walking around, you finally come across the heliport from the Nightmares. And here, I really recommend we're going to take a minute to just have a moment of silence and breathe in. Now, to be totally real, this section of the game hits me every time I play it, no matter what. Now, to appreciate the music choice, I mean, I haven't said it so far up till now, really. Metal Gear Solid 4 has some of the best music franchise all things considered. I mean, when you look at the theme of Old Snake all the way up to the best of Wolfenstein, it plays so beautifully and so well that it deserves an award, and I think it may have even gotten an award if I'm not mistaken. If it didn't, it definitely should have. I mean, this really sets the deal. And not only is the music an amazing choice, but the actual environment is brilliant to actually absorb yourself into. Remember, you're going to the entire location of the first game. I mean, 10 years later, Shadow Moses Island is an empty shell of itself. But when you play this, everything is there, down to a item placement. Every single thing is there, save for the original enemies and even the original electronics. And it's not just this section, helipad, that's remade perfectly. 90% of Shadow Moses is recreated faithfully, to the point that I was almost surprised they never made a full-on remake of the first game, considering they pretty much made a shit ton of the map assets to begin with. That being said, though, there are some key problems of the area, and that's notably in the enemy selection that they ended up going with. Here you're actually fighting a PMC, werewolf, to be exact. And Werewolf's gimmick is, I guess they don't have any actual person on their team. They're all robot-oriented. Your only enemies in this area, aside from human boss characters, are scouts, or geckos, varying kinds of them, okay? So you have the regular gecko, that walk on two legs, and you've got scout gecko that basically walk around, or roll around and serve as cameras. Except their detection, I can never understand. I don't know how these things detect me, but if you remember back to Act 2 when I played these on the Come on! As far as I know, every act has at least two characters.
You're probably going to want to have at least 4 by the time you get to sneaking through this area, because chaff grenades are the only grenades I believe you cannot buy. And because you can't buy them, they become a fucking rare commodity, alright? Why do you need these in this area? See, when you're fighting against robotic enemies, the only way to completely remain undetected, I think, aside from having stealth camouflage, which I think doesn't actually even work, is to have customers that can keep these people hidden away. Like, basically, you're going to need them, otherwise you're going to trigger some fucking alert. Now, even then, alerts aren't the worst thing that you can get in this area, but if you're going for an alertless run, it's advisable to have this to begin with. And there's going to be moments where you're waiting for elevators to come. God forbid you trigger an alert then. You're going to be fucking surrounded in these sectors going forward. So, keep that in mind. Now, as you sneak all the way through, you eventually end up making it to where Otacon and Snake first actually met in the series for the first time. And it's a pretty cool area. It's so faithfully recreated that I can't help but constantly keep mentioning it. When you do such a good job, you bet I'm going to be talking about it. Now, over here, Snake is going to replace the refire of the system. And it's here that Otacon kind of he also the entire game, he's visibly getting more and more worried for Snake as he's aged. I mean, once you get this chapter to chapter, I'm not covering it everything, but Snake is literally at death door. I mean, I've been saying it since the beginning, but he's constantly throwing up. He's constantly injecting himself with those nanomachine's suppressing him. To the point where Otacon, even he's questioning if Snake is going to make it. So he gives him a little test, and here at the computer, you can enter any code you want. It can be something long, or in certain cases, you can enter a specific code that'll actually give you 1,000 driven points you can use to buy weapons later on. But if you want to feel good about Snake's memory, you can enter it right once and walk away patting yourself on the back. Now, once you have the code over here, Otacon figures out that through the security logs, that is already here. So the railgun might be gone, and then you really have to haul ass. And so they eventually figure out and they go up and blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. But you need to understand that there are some Easter eggs you need to remember it. For instance, this floor used to be electrified when you were actually entering your Solid 1. A gecko actually intervenes inside security. But you can use your Mark III, the little Metal Gear Mark III, because Mark II got destroyed. You can send this to the original transformer and follow the and bam! You can electrify the gecko, dude. See, it's little things like that, when you remember it, makes you feel a little bit better. Anyways, once you go back up the elevator and try to hack the door that was once previously locked, you'll find out another
one.
Like, 31 times playing this game! I figured this out. Normally, if you ever come across this, you can find any kind of shots that you go away. You draw blood and I guess like replicating human muscle. Or resembling human muscle rather, you can actually knock their legs out and they can't move for a while. But I didn't know that if you equip any weapon and fire at its crotch area, like right under its taint, you can actually cause some serious damage. So I don't know that you can do it. I'll remember it for next time. But again, it's one of those things that's like, there's so many hidden details in this game that you just like sort of, you discover something new every time. Like some playthroughs, like a new code it calls, like a new little Easter egg. I mean, there's so much to this game that I like. I'm glad that I witnessed it. It made put a smile on my face, ain't gonna lie. Anyways, so moving on. Now we get to the Flying Wolf boss battle, the next D&D. And this is the boss battle that... Listen, it's a good boss battle. What happens afterwards? Oh, we're going to talk about that. Now, this boss battle is sort of the sniper battle for this game. Every Metal Gear game has a sniper battle. We're going to include 2 sniper battles. But NGS 4 sniper battle is good. And it's here for good reason. Because in Metal Gear Solid 1, you thought sniper was in the same, like, field. But you know, when you fight Flying Wolf here, it's a standard sniper battle. Except here, you're actually surrounded by a blizzard. And the gimmick to this battle is you're not just fighting Wolf, you're actually fighting a bunch of Haven troopers that investigate you as well. If you kill enough of them, I'm pretty sure they stop spawning, so it's really hard to do. Now, Wolf is running right in the field. And he's got a railgun, meaning on a higher difficulty, that's a fucking one-shot or death right there. So the way to beating her is, the gimmick behind it is, if you look at the top right where your sound indicator is, if you have the solid eye equipped, if you don't have it equipped, you actually have a wind direction compass, which tells you where the wind is blowing. So the whole gimmick here is you have to follow downwind, because apparently Wolf is able to smell you out in the air as the wind is traveling to her direction. Now, I call this bullshit because I have never seen this work the way the game fucking says. If anything, the best way to find her is to sneak around this battlefield long enough so that you can hear her cry, because she's crying Wolf, and that's the gimmick. Get it? Ha 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 ha! She's crying inside! So if you find her, you have to shoot her in the face. Now, I found out after a few places that literally fighting her is fucking stupid. The best way to fight for her is if you're good enough, you can actually, she spawns in the same location every time. If you're good enough, if you have enough smoke and stun grenades, you can smoke her once and just teleport extending it and knock her out within a minute. I used to be so good at that, and I don't know what happened, but I can't do it anymore. So I bought a real fashioned. I bought a Nelson Nine sniper rifle, pelted it up with anesthetic round, and put that bitch to sleep. And I would say probably 15-20 minutes into this battle, which admittedly was actually longer than it wanted to be. I expected myself to go in, so yeah, I slept through. Then you finally get Crime Wolf out, and then she gets into her beauty form, and you know what to do. Hit her with some non-lethals and put her to sleep. Now, this is where the fan service gets to be bad. Okay, so let me put this in. This game really tries to put in all the fan service styles. You got wolves coming in, falling in love with her, sure, turning back. They give her backstory, okay? Which, let me remind you, before the backstory, the cutscene is filled with callbacks to Sniper Wolf down. Except the mark is missed for some obvious reason. Let's just talk about the Sniper Wolf battle. Sniper Wolf in Metal Gear Solid 1 was the one boss character you probably spent the most amount of time with. Don't get me wrong, every boss battle was interesting. Vulcan Raven was great, Psycho Mantis was amazing. Sniper Wolf is great because she fucking taunts Snake. She's the one that calls you on a fucking codec call to rub it in your face. She's the one that shot Meryl repeatedly on the walkway between the communications towers. The first time you fight her, where you have your first sniper battle. And this triggers one of the best cutscenes from Metal Gear Solid 1. Today, this scene stands out to me because back in the days of the PlayStation 1, voice acting, all this emotion, this scene was almost unprecedented compared to a lot of other
ones.
I waited for this moment. I am a sniper. Waiting is my job. Never moving a muscle. Concentrating. I am long shot. You cannot save me. Please. Just finish me quick. I am hurt. I have always dreamed of a peaceful place like this.
Curd. So that's why you're called Wolf.
I was born on the battlefield. Raised and they were my lullabies. Hunted like dogs day after day. Breathing that was my life. Each morning I wake up. I find a few more of my family always there beside me. I stare at the morning sun.
I'm so sorry.
Governments of the world blind eye to our misery. He appeared. My hero. Sally. He took me away from all that.
Sally.
Now, understand, when you're dealing with boss battles, usually it's a one and done affair. You kill the boss, you move on to the next stage, and it's over. But this is a case where this one specific boss messed with you the most. And it's at this point in the game, when the character their last fucking drink, you feel some sort of connection to humanity. It's this one scene that makes this character go from this emotionless, cold-blooded sniper that you were
Don't have enough stamina yet.
invested in taking out to someone that you start to humanize with shortly before their own fucking death. I mean, this was a deadly sniper. To go up against one of the best snipers in the world over something like this, I mean, it really does raise the stakes. And not only do you go up against her once, but you go up against her twice. Hell, she's the one that gets you captured by faking her death once in a boss battle, just so you can get captured and tortured. And you believe for the rest of the game that the woman that you met and slowly developed a connection with died because you fucked up. That is what makes Sniper Wolf a great fucking character and a great boss to go up against. And it's one thing to just have that, but it's one thing to keep the emotion so strong up until the point where you actually put the bullet in her yourself.
Qué estupidez esta de la estamina, man. Ridículo, ridículo.
You know how much Flying Wolf adds in relation to what it is? Fucking nothing! There's no encounter with her beforehand. You don't know any of these
Incoming.
DMVs. The only time you ever get any hint of their backstory is when Brevin calls you up after a fight. It's like, story time, Snake. And she actually has good backstory.
You don't need me to tell you there's whole nations in Africa tearing themselves apart in the name of ethnic cleansing. Well, she was born into that environment. When she was a little girl, her village was attacked by rival armed factions. Her parents and siblings were slaughtered, and she was left a refugee. She took her last surviving relative, her baby brother, and ran as far as she could away from the ocean. One day, they came across an enemy man, so she took her brother and hid in an abandoned shack. She knew that if the soldiers heard the noise, they would find him and kill them both. So she wrapped her hand as tight as she could around his mouth. As the footsteps gradually went away, she came back to her senses. Her brother was gone. Thereby, she pulled her hand and spit. They said rumors eat their own pups when they die. She was spotted wandering through the thick of battle, carrying her dead brother in her arms. She had visions, too. A wolf walking alongside her. Every night, the wolf would howl and cry, just like her brother. Eventually, she made it to the government-run refugee camp. If I did, his body had rotted away. The camp was crowded with refugees like herself, and little children like her brother. Day and night, she was tormented by the cries of babies. The wolf that followed her heard her sorrowful screams and answered. He made his way around the camp. She tried to stop it, but she was powerless to stop the wolf. A few days passed, and in the eve of the enemy's raid, there wasn't a child left. The adults who survived were torn up pretty bad. Of course, there was never any wolf in that camp. She was the one who killed those babies. But she couldn't bring herself to admit it. She couldn't bear the thought of herself going from one baby to the next, howling like a wolf, snuffing out their own lives. And she never did. Even a crying wolf. Fighting a human wolf finally accept what she'd done. If the cries she heard of children on the battlefield have been silenced. It's because of you.
I mean, this is a good backstory, and it's a real backstory, too. All these war crimes that you know on Wikipedia or any article, you hear that, you see them in text, and then you go about and do your day. But when you look beyond the lines and you look at people actually affected, they have a much more sinister story to tell. It's the one story that I literally heard, and I had to stop and do a retake because it was actually fucking serious, like super serious. You know, it was something that I could actually believe was a reality. And that's the only backstory we hear after we've done her in. I mean, this is the fault with this game's characters. You go up against bosses that you have no emotional investment in. And the thing is, they actually have some emotional backstory that if it was fleshed out, could be way more effective than anything we've seen in the series. That's what fucks up this game even fucking harder than you would imagine. Metal Gear Solid 4's biggest problem with the bosses is that they are lifeless shells. And you know what? It doesn't get any easier. Every Metal Gear game that came out after Metal Gear Solid 4, we're talking Peace Walker, we're talking Metal Gear Solid 5, the bosses, if they have even been existent at all, are bosses that are so inferior to what we've had in the series beforehand that you might as well not even talk about them. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 5, I don't even consider the bosses in that game to be actual bosses. They're just fucking racist high. And if we're going to talk about the actual AI weapons in Peace Walker, I actually think I'm 100% right in what I said, okay? That's where we're getting at over here. It's a piss-off, for sure. But you know what? After the battle, it's time for you to go through the final sneaking segment of Shadow Mode. And, of course, remember, you gotta switch to this too.
Hold it, Snake. Time to change the disc. I know, it's a pain. But you need to swap disc 1 for disc 2. You see the disc labeled 2?
No.
Huh? Oh, wait. We're on PlayStation 3. It's a Blu-ray disc. Dual layer, too. No need to swap.
Damn it, Otacon. Get a grip.
Now, what a rage we will be. I don't know what they'll think of next.
I feel like Sony must have called Kojima Productions and they were like, yeah, you gotta tell people what to do. I mean, I guess it was during the height of their forward, Blu-ray. I guess, I have to believe Kojima Productions was full supply on Sunday. I like to look at it as an Easter egg, but it's a pretty heavy one too. Now, for me, this is lighthearted. I kind of laugh at it. I remember back in the day when I was reading on gaming forums, Xbox gamers were like, how dare Metal Gear Assault, and then PS3 gamers, they use this fucking clip every time they hit Xbox games. I remember reading these articles way back in the day, like, Metal Gear Solid 4 for Xbox 360, where they're talking about the Legacy Collection of the version, where it's like, Hideo Kojima explained why MGS4 and the Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection isn't available. And then he points out that it's due to the Xbox 360's use of DVDs, and he said that it would require like 7 discs to be ported to the 360. To be fair, I don't think he's wrong, but I remember when I got this thing up in a custom firmware PS3, probably could have been done on like 2 or 3 discs. It also didn't help with the same uncompressed audio of anything. But he did say, when it's the next console, maybe, yeah, it never came out. It never came out on PS4 or Xbox One. We kind of got shafted with this game preserving itself. For me, I just considered it kind of funny. And it was a nice callback to the disc switch from the PS1. Now, you then meet up with Vamp at the Rex hangar, where, yeah, this is where you have your next boss battle. Now, again, I'm going to say this much about Vamp. He's a fucking useless character. Like, I'm sorry. Oh, wait. Oh, hey, Naomi. Wait a minute, let's let this scene play out.
This place will be your grave as my queen.
Yep. Yep, there we go. It gets me every fucking time, I swear. He has no redeeming quality. There is no point in the story where I ever think, wow, I feel kind of bad for Vamp or someone sympathetic. No, this dude's a fucking comic book villain. So anyways, his gimmick for the battle is pretty standard. It's not that he's even a hard guy. Have basically 500 bullets at your disposal because this guy is a fucking sponge. Like, it's actually comically that fucking simple because this guy's AI isn't exactly one to tell around. Even on harder difficulties, he pretty much keeps his distance and just keeps bullets.
any of his attacks have such a wind-up time that, like, even if you weren't paying attention to the game, or you couldn't even, like, move your hands, or you were, like, fucking completely disabled from the neck down, you still have a better reaction time than this actual dumbass that you're going up against. So it's really just buying a shit ton of bullets from Brevin, taking him out. It actually is a lot easier once you get a lot of extra items in the game. One of them is a sunlight gun that you can just use to down this dude immediately. And then bam, that's pretty much it. And listen, if you don't actually do this next phase correctly, you're going to be stuck in this combat loop. So make sure you have that syringe that you got in Act 2, the one that suppresses nanomachines, and jab it right into the enemy's neck. Because if you remember, bam, gets recharged for the damage. So you gotta do this for like 10 seconds when he finally gets up from being knocked down. And in that moment, you grab him, CQC hold, and stick the needle into his body. That stops his nanomachines from regenerating him. If you don't do that, you're gonna be stuck in a fucking loop battle. So it's just one of those segments you have to remember when you're going into it. Raiden shows up and continues a fight with Vamp on top of the Metal Gear X. Now, this is where the screen splits up, because now it's high stakes shit. What's happened is Vamp has called in Suicide Gecko, whose job is to blow up near Metal Gear. And effectively he sent us so many that he's going to blow up the hangar and cave everyone else in. So, what Snake has to do is grab the railgun that he picked off Crying Wolf, destroy the Gecko, while that's happening on one side of the screen, and on the other side you see this badass battle between Raiden and Vamp. Two dudes going at it, and the history between these two, like I said earlier, is pretty heavy. Remember, Raiden and Vamp, they have a reason to not fucking get along, especially Raiden. And it's glad to see Raiden fucking kicking this dude's ass in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm also super glad that they split screen this segment in, and you have this awesome fight choreography on the other side. Remember, Snake and Raiden are pretty much partners since Metal Gear Solid 2. Maybe not, throughout their entire extensive careers, but they work together, and they obviously have a camaraderie. So it's great to see that for the first time, Raiden's not looking like a little kid, and that really brings me to fight hardcore. I mean, dude, I like Cyborg Ninja Raiden, but this. I don't like Cyborg Ninja Raiden. So, guys, get ready. This is the few moments in the game where the dude actually is given his fair shake. Eventually, though, the fight is won, and Raiden beats Vamp, and then it's revealed that Vamp is again being kept alive through nanomachines. So, it's to a point where the nanomachines are not functioning as well anymore. And so, what Naomi does is she gives you the nanomachine suppressant, and you stick that into Vamp in order to, give him a quick and painless death. Now, she gives this to Otacon, who, remember, his sister died at this dude's hand. Now, you might call me a piece of shit, but guess what? I wouldn't give this fucker that. I'd let him die painfully and miserably. Fuck you. You killed my family, dude. There ain't no fucking second chances or forgiveness. But ultimately, he grabs a syringe, sticks it into him, and he goes out pretty peacefully. And it's so obvious they wanted to recreate that moment with Sniper Wolf's death where she was put out of her misery as she was lung shot. But here's the key difference. Sniper Wolf at least had some form of morals and ethics. Vamp throughout his entire career, for as much as we knew, was probably one of the worst people out on the battlefield. Even the war crimes we heard of the B&Bs that went through as they were children, Vamp was probably committing them to an extent in his own accord. I mean, this guy's a complete degenerate piece of shit since Metal Gear Solid 2. He has no fucking morals. He has no ethics as far as I know. Fuck him. Like, I know the whole point is to be the bigger person and not end up becoming like Vamp, but I'd fucking piss in his eye socket. No joke. No cap. I'm serious. And honestly, seeing him die, I was like, good! You fucking killed Emma from MGS2. I'm glad you're dead, dude. Alright? I hope you rot in hell, Vamp. I know it's pretty heavy coming from me. Now, this is where you're gonna get one of the fucking worst forms of fan service. Get ready for this one. Naomi announces she has fucking cancer.
Vamp and I, we are the same. We live in corpses. Our bodies kept brought alive by nanomachines.
Then you...
Cancer. I shouldn't even be alive right now. The nanomachines have kept it from progressing.
Yeah, we really pulled that one out of our ass, ladies and gentlemen. Now, she
I don't
apparently
know
has
what
some
Lord's
super
doing out
terminal
here.
mega
Consider
cancer.
yourself
And
old.
I'll be
You
fucking
tried to
real
hold
with
off
you.
and wait for
I
the
really
vanguard.
checked the
One of them
footage to just
bristlebacks
figure
charged
out
us.
where this cancer
Next
was.
thing you know,
And
it's a
apparently in Act 2,
full-fledged
she's kind of like
rapist.
thrown up a little bit, you know, getting pushed down. Very reminiscent to everyone in this game when they had their nanomachines fucked with. So I didn't chalk it up to cancer or anything. I really didn't go with it, but I guess Kojima wrote that in so early, and it's so blandly written in that now we're supposed to believe she had this mega cancer all along. I mean, holy fucking shit, this is really goddamn contrived. It's not like she's on death's door. She's not even visibly hurt by it. Act 3, no. Act 4, she...
Can't lift a hammer till Olvin blows that thing. Because if we work without his say-so,
she's grabbing Van's nipples
my people have been
before
through enough.
she's not affected by the cancer. The cancer isn't doing anything.
He's got the
In fact,
money and
even in the
connections
scene, she
to
outright
snuff our
says,
fires for good.
my nanomachines,
Almost feels like we
they
stood a better
outright
chance with the
stop the
bristlebacks.
cancer. They stop the flow of time.
The nanomachines have kept it from progressing.
What are you and your crew working on?
We're supposed to be working Olvin's claim, digging out stone to show our barren light. But the work stoppage and the bristlebacks cut us short. Never seen those blasty things in a thought before. Where in Forge Fire did they come from?
I'm not sure. At least not yet.
They chipped your cancer.
Siempre lo está conjurando con un pendejo.
With your nanomachines. Good for you.
Stay safe.
Now,
Thanks
it's
to
funny
you, that might
because
actually
in
be
this
possible
scene,
today.
she announces that she has to die. She can't do anything. She sticks herself full of suppressor nanomachines. And in a second, the cancer literally starts destroying her rapidly. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you. If the cancer was that bad, we would have seen visible notions of this throughout the game, which we didn't. So clearly she cured her fucking cancer. Now, this is where the conspiracy comes in. I feel like this had to happen because the original ending to Metal Gear Solid was so shit, that Snake and Otacon were going to turn themselves in because they're fugitives, they're terrorists, and they were going to accept death. The writing team behind this game had to stop Kojima and said, look, that's really dumb. This had to be the fucking concession. Now, let me explain from a fan service perspective what I mean. When Sniper Wolf died in Metal Gear Solid 1, okay, Metal Gear Solid 1, that affected Otacon. He actually fell in love with her. He fucked Naomi once. Once, maybe. And then he's like, man, why does this keep happening to me? I'm falling in love. Look, I get it. Maybe he falls in love fucking quickly. But like a couple days? You thought something was going to happen in a couple days? She used you. She used you. You think after 10 years, this guy would have grown up a little bit. But no, it is what it is. So she ends up killing herself. And this is purely to cash in on the Sniper Wolf death. You wanna know why that is? Because they fucking play Enclosure, the same fucking soundtrack from Sniper Wolf's death.
That's my life. Each morning I'd wake up and find a few more of my family or friends.
And it's to the credit of Metal Gear Solid 1 that Otacon and Sniper Wolf's relationship was more built up. Obviously more than a few fucking couple days than it was in Metal Gear Solid 4. I mean, it's this reason, and there's plenty of others. I mean, if you just put the scenes next to each other, it's very obvious they were trying to go for the Sniper Wolf death, but they didn't have enough build-up for the payoff that they were trying to achieve. Her death is written in purely to say fuck you to Otacon and fan service to players. But here's where fan service fails. When you write deaths in that make no sense, you have failed to realize why the Sniper Wolf death scene mattered that much in MGS1. In MGS4, Naomi's death literally exists for no reason than to call back to the fucking death of Sniper Wolf. What a shitty reason to write that in. There is no one in the world that can explain otherwise that that was not a stupid fucking thing to do. Anyways, then you get the epic Rex escape scene. Now, it's the first time in the franchise, in Metal Gear, franchise called Metal Gear, do we actually get the fucking pilot for Metal Gear, and Rex specifically. Now, this scene is pretty sweet. If you wanted to farm some Drebin points, this is the way. This is where you make that money, son.
And for the most part, it's pretty good. You ride in an Otacon escape. And when you finally get to the end of the tunnel, that's when the real magic begins. Liquid Ocelot is there. He's there. And you know what he's in? Metal Gear Ray. Now, for context, Metal Gear Ray was designed by the U.S. Army to destroy Metal Gear Rex. And understand, this gives it not only an advantage, but the fucking pilot behind it, Liquid Ocelot, has technically piloted both a Rex and a Ray. So this dude has all the advantages. And what do we have? Otacon, which is probably the best advantage we can get. Now, fighting Metal Gear Rex versus Ray, not only do you get an awesome soundtrack, but the actual battle is done pretty well, too. On a harder difficulty, the AI can be kind of, it can be pretty good. But on normal difficulty is what I played on. Fighting Ray, you pretty much have to keep your distance. Make sure you use the machine guns, because the other two weapons are fucking dog shit useless. The machine gun is enough to stagger. Once you stagger Ray in this boss battle, you want to go up and basically make sure you get the CQC triangle prompt and basically batch the shit out of it. You can also CQC the robot. It kind of looks silly, but it's pretty effective. And for the most part, this actual boss battle, I think, as far as a Metal Gear boss battle that I envisioned as a child, it pretty much fits the goddamn bill. It's not too long, but it definitely, for the amount of time you get piloting these Rex and Rays, it's a fun moment. It definitely is what it is, alright? And quite honestly, if the game had ended here with this boss battle, I might not even be fucking disappointed. It's a pretty good battle. Now, however, at the end of this battle is the final cutscene. And this we gotta talk about. Now, Liquid Ocelot eventually, you know, he gets out of the Ray after he's gotten his ass kicked and starts running towards his new ship. Now, what is his new ship? Well, his new ship is Outer Haven, which is basically the Arsenal Gear redesign, except for some reason, get this, audience, he made Mount Snakemore. Yes, I shit you not. Mount Rushmore, except they're all snake characters. Normally, I would expect this out of fucking Reddit memes, but yeah, this is Mount Snakemore. And I think for a lot of us Metal Gear fans, this is not only stupid, but hilariously fucking stupid. I mean, I always tell you guys to follow your dreams, and I think this example is good enough. Think about it for a second, just on a meta level. There's a 3D modeler that got fucking paid for this monstrosity. And you know what? They did a great job, but they were just given a shit thing to model. Now look, I'm just gonna be real here. Okay, somebody at Kojima Productions at the time definitely gave this thing the stamp of approval. And it probably was written into the script as when the Outer Haven rises up from the heavens or the ashes, it will showcase the faces of all the snakes before. I swear to God, this thing cringes the fuck out of me. I don't understand how they could just pass Mount Rushmore into the entire... Sorry, Mount Snakemore into the entire thing. I'm trying to add logic to the scenario. Yeah, it's a hilarious point, and I just wanted to fucking rant about it because of how bullshit it was and how fucking stupid it is. And honestly, it's not even fan servicing at this point. It's just an entirely unique asset that fucking missed the mark, dude. And I've probably ranted about it longer than I goddamn should have. Now here, Snake is about to pretty much give in into being crushed by Outer Haven, but Raiden chops off his fucking hand to jump, run up there, and hold this thing back with his sheer strength. I don't buy it. I'm sorry, that's Outer Haven. You see how big that fucking ship is? I mean, you might have the best military muscles in your legs, but no, I don't buy it. Regardless though, Raiden gets crushed wholly by Outer Haven. And this is a pretty emotional scene where he remembers the dialogue that he shared with his ex-girlfriend Rosemary. I mean, truth be told, it does get to me every time I play this segment. Because, look, I like Raiden as a character. This death scene that he had here might be the best fucking writing that Raiden has received this game all the way through. For the one time in Metal Gear Solid 4's writing, the fucking staff was actually respectful to Raiden. But see, I don't even know how true that statement is, because the dialogue isn't even unique to Metal Gear Solid 4. It's pretty much straight from MGS2, at least as far as I know. God damn! But wait, Act 5 gets fucking worse. Let's talk about it. Now, a Snake is about to get crushed and destroyed. The Missouri steps in, starts firing missiles at Outer Haven. Now, you think that Mei Ling brings the ship across, that Liquid could just sort of, you know, blow the ship up? fire a little missile at it, a little fucking, little attack of the Missouri, sort of nip this little problem. But he doesn't. Instead, Haven retreats into the sea and he fucks off. Snake gets picked up by Mei Ling, and that's sort of the end of Act 4. Now, from a fan service perspective, it starts out well. However, with the amount of aneurysms that I've had just in this segment alone, you can tell that even as a long-time, nitpicky Metal Gear veteran, this shit fucking hurts. And even if you weren't a Metal Gear veteran, the writing itself is very fucking apparent as to why it's not good. But you know what? That's just one of the many faults that Metal Gear Solid 4 does actually have. You gotta point out the faults where the faults exist. But it's the end of Act 4, and now we have the final act, Act 5. Oh, Act 5, the ending! Woo! Okay, we're here, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting close to the end, and it's time to hype up because this is a hype chapter. This is the finale to the entire franchise, the last act, the last bout of gameplay on my chronological run through the series. So, let's be real. At least from a personal perspective, I'm pretty hyped, and I'm hyped even talking about it right now after all is said and done. Now, Act 5 begins with a briefing on top of the Missouri where Mei Ling, Foxhound, remaining members, which the U.S. Army Spec Ops in this case, Snake are present, and, they're here talking about what they have to do. The information that they're talking about that's provided for them actually comes from Naomi.
Look, man, I have no idea whose side she was actually on. I don't know who she was trying to screw over or not. I'm sure we'll get to the answers in the end, but, mentally, I'm just going to be real with you. Dog's already checked out.
But basically, the entire gist over here is we need to get onto Haven, Outer Haven, the ship, and turn down GW, destroy it one final time just before Liquid is able to launch a nuke against JD and gain full control of the system, thus allowing him to enslave the human race. I mean, the stakes had never been this high.
Wait a minute. Wait. Oh, dude, Johnny, no! Oh, dude, that is not an endearing character trait. Holy fuck.
When you chronologically play this game, and you play something like Metal Gear Solid 3, right, where it's just like this nice romp back in the 60s, you never know that this entire thing can actually lead up to an AI-controlled system forward. So it is definitely intriguing to see how it plays out and what it eventually is led up to. Now, through this scene, Snake is literally on life support. Like he's on an oxygen tank. He literally cannot take much more. And it's actually at this point that Otacon and Snake share a moment together.
Now, this seems really touching because if you ever remember the original script of this game, the actual ending Kojima envisioned was both Snake and Otacon were going to turn themselves in to the United Nations since they were both technically eco-terrorists and accept the death penalty. But because of this, I feel like the scene just gets way more endearing. I mean, obviously they don't do that at the end of the game, but compared to a lot of the other characters, these two get more of a bittersweet ending, if anything. And honestly, they're the only characters in the franchise, or at least the few characters that have actually learned from their many mistakes. I mean, Solid Snake blindly took orders, and Al Emmerich designed weapons that actually almost ended the world many times. And then they spent a better half of their adult careers actually fighting against the mistakes that they made. And they lived life on their own terms, rectifying those exact mistakes I talked about. And for them to have a moment like this is a little bit more hard-hitting than usual when you take the entire context of things in. Oh, and if you thought his health game wasn't bad enough, he has to walk through a literal microwave hole in this section, or this act of the game, which, is going to cook his body from the inside out. I mean, I'm surprised his eyeballs don't pop when he gets to that moment, but we'll cover it in due time. As far as a security checkpoint is considered, a bit too extreme for me, but, it's a world-controlling AI, so I guess I'll give them a pass, right?
This is the final thing, and the game sets it up like no tomorrow. Everyone is here. They are walking down like it's a fucking 2000s action movie. Drebin is here to make one final set of sales, because obviously Liquid taking over the entire system, now he doesn't need Drebin to launder guns, so he only has these customers left, and that's about it.
So, I mean, I guess if we fuck up, he's completely out of business. Now, to Drebin's credit, he does provide the team, anti-material rifles, and all these laundered weapons that they can get, and also a bunch of catapults that they can use to completely fly from their ship to Haven as soon as it opens up for the final nuclear launch. How many people do you think this force sends into a massive Haven like this? Just take a guess. 3. Fucking 3. Count it, audience. 3. Who do you think? They send Snake, obviously pretty good. Meryl, good. Johnny, the fucking dunce that he is, gets sent along with him. And just to twist the knife in just a little deeper, he doesn't even make it on behavior. He messes up. I mean, Snake's the only one that lands properly. Even Meryl screws up to an extent, and they've been jacking off on him about his age all the time. What's wrong with this? Out of the 3 people they sent, Snake's the only one that has a chance, and he's already pushing 85 years old. I mean, you know, they're not even trying to stop world domination at this point. If they fail, I wouldn't even give them a fucking participation trophy. God, this is such a bad attempt. You got a team full of U.S. special forces, and one old dude, one actual proper agent of the U.S. Army, and then one fucking savant. Well, it's all on you, boys. You wanted to say. Anyways, though, they jump to the and finally, you're on the last season segment of the show. Act 5's gameplay, if you're gonna fucking call it that, was probably like 14 minutes of worth of gameplay. I shit you not. So if you're a speedrunner, you can probably get this done faster than it takes most people to fix your shit. And no, I'm not trying to just make a joke. I literally mean it. There's only one sneaking segment, one boss battle, and one retirement home snafu that you have to go to. That's pretty much all this act is. It's mostly a watching act, if anything. Like, this is a very, very quick section. Now, to its credit, the final sneaky section is pretty decent. However, there are certain set pathways you can take to get I follow one. Here, the only actual enemy you encounter is the final outer haven of PSA, where all the enemies are effectively flawed. They have a bit of a heightened sense of awareness, but it's nothing that you can't just knock out from like 5 feet away without getting caught. You have to be careful though, because the constant passing phase pretty much ensures that if you get caught once, oh, you're fine. Because the alert phase doesn't go away. They will find you. And they will carry your buckle from your time. Now, the sneaking segment does have a couple different branching patterns, but if you want to make it super easy for yourself, just sneak by the left side, and you should be pretty good as long as you're maintaining your camouflage index to a high degree, and that's about it. But anyways, getting through this section, you go down an elevator, and finally to the command center. And look, as badass as they've actually been so far, I mean, all you really have to do is channel your inner Jaeger main and just make 70 bitches until they fucking are gone from existence. But then after this, guess who shows up? Johnny. Yeah, I guess he didn't actually fall off into the sea. No, he is just fine. And he pulls off one of the greatest shots of all time. I mean, the premium manager shows up. He pretty much fires a shot from an anti-material rifle at a fucking small floating doll. I mean, this is not an easy feat. Anybody shooting a gun will tell you this is a hard thing to do. But I mean, Johnny pulls it off. And I guess it kind of shows you that this dude is a full-on savant. Like, I mean, I guess in Act 1, maybe it showed up that he had some technical intelligence. But I mean, if he's pulling shots like this off, why is he not carrying rep full teams in a web? I mean, I guess he really is a goddamn 10-year vet the way that he claims if he's pulling stuff like this off. I guess he just has his moments of like clear stupidity, and I guess maybe that is the most endearing character to have. Yeah, I'm no rookie. I'm a 10-year vet. Yes, you are, buddy. Yes, you fucking are. Now you get to the final B&B battle here against Screaming Mantis.